Oh, I don't know. Welcome, everybody. You need to move your booty. And that's what today's show is all about, even though we've been moving our booty so much today that we had the time wrong, we had the place wrong, we had the setup wrong. But you know what? That doesn't stop us and it doesn't stop you. So let's get rolling. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Patton. Joining us, as usual, is Martin Patella, health coach. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, and I thank you for asking.
Right. So, you don't need a gym membership or a six pack to unlock the mental health magic of movement. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about because in today's society, we don't move nearly enough. I've heard it said, a wise man, I believe, once told me that 100,000 years ago, we walked 40 miles a day.
Not 40 miles. Come on, sir.
You don't think it was 40 miles?
Not a chance.
Chasing the deer and the
Not
antelope that
40
are
miles.
playing in the fields?
Okay, never mind. I mean, you
Okay,
just
what would you
overshot it.
say? No, what would you say? Okay, so we're
In
basically
miles, in miles, I would
we're
say
hunter
about
gatherers.
10.
10, not even
Not,
half a marathon. That's boring.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Well,
all
it
right.
doesn't matter, right? I mean, man would conserve energy, but at the same time, he would put out whatever energy it took to get the food on the stick.
That he needed.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, there was an interesting thing they found in Australia. Evidently, at some point in time, 5,000 last year, 5,000 years ago, I don't know that anyone actually knows when it was, except it was probably before the white man went to Australia. And they found a couple feet print. Is it footprints or feet prints?
Yeah, there
Footprints.
are two.
Footprints in the sand, but unfortunately it had, like, I don't know, rained or something, and it became an impression that turned into sandstone that turned into rock. And according to the people that analyzed these things, at the time that this happened, they figured he was running 40 miles an hour.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
probably wouldn't
so
run
ex-
for an
ex-
hour, but
so Scott, sprinter like Hussein Bolt, is running at 40 kilometers an hour, which is 25 miles an hour. So if you throw in 40 miles an hour, that's 64 kilometers an hour. That's about 65% faster or 60% faster. That is challenging my credulity.
but he probably didn't do it for an hour.
No, no, but
I
even
mean,
even
but
if it
that's what
was
they
the
would be
speed,
doing, right? They'd be running after. I mean, Usain Bolt is running to get to a flag. If your dinner depends on you getting that thing that's running at 35 miles an hour, you'd be taking
all
off
right.
faster
Okay, well, have it your way. I don't know.
for
I
eight
have,
seconds, right? I mean, he runs that fast for like 6 seconds, right?
well, you
No,
could keep up with a cheetah at that speed because
I
cheetah
thought they
runs
went.
at 60 miles an hour. That's his top speed.
Yeah, yeah. So
Ah,
anyway, we need
okay.
to move. We haven't moved enough, and we need to move more. So one of the things that I do, Martin, is I'm in Spain, everybody. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plains, and I'm not on the plains, so it's sunny. And I was in Barcelona, and I was staying at this hotel, and it was 5 floors high, but they don't count it like we do. Like we count the ground floor is one, they count it as zero. So either we're cheating, I think we're cheating because it makes it sound like we're going up more floors. But Anyway, I'm on the fourth floor, but it starts at 0, so that's probably the fifth floor.
Yeah.
And they have an elevator, and I put my nose up at that elevator and I walked up 90% of the time that I had to go to my room or down, you know. And I felt pretty good about that,
Yeah. Yeah. You should
particularly
pat
knowing what we were
yourself.
talking about.
Pat yourself on the back. So stagnation is the word that we use as the antithesis of movement. And yes, you're right that, well, it's more complicated than this, right? Like your muscle develops because of resistance. You use it, and if you don't use it, it does not grow. It gets smaller. Use it or lose it. But the bone that the muscle is attached to is mineralized only in the places where the muscle attachment is stressing the bone. So if you're not stressing the bone, then you're demineralizing your bones. So for lack of movement, you develop osteoporosis and sarcopenia, which is the loss of your muscle mass. And your muscles is where energy is stored because glucose is stored only in your organs like liver and heart and your muscles. It's not stored in your blood, it's not stored in your lymph, it's only stored there. So if you want to work, you must have muscles. So anyway, it's a closed loop. The less you move, the less capacity you have,
For movement.
and for health itself. Like for example, if you have an infection and you need energy to fight the infection, the energy has to come from somewhere. Well, if you have more muscles, you will have more reserve from which to call the reserves out of.
Right.
Yeah. Do push-ups, Scott.
Yeah, and squats. It makes me really mad. I get down on the floor with my grandkids and it takes me 5 minutes to get up. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, squats are a good thing. So I do 20 push-ups, or actually 24 push-ups and 20 squats and every day, because if I don't, I see myself as wussy. And then of
Yeah.
course I have the bitch brain that says, "Oh, come on, you don't have to do it today." And then I have
Right.
the
Right.
boss brain that says, "Get your act together."
And when you think about it, 24 push-ups takes you a
At
minute and
most.
a half
No, at most. Yeah.
at most, right?
It's enough for my muscles to tire and for me to be having to pant, right? That's what it is. That's what
Right.
I do it for. I want to do it to the point of near to muscle failure, meaning can't do another one, and to the point where I'm having to take some mouth breathing to keep up with it. Yeah.
My point being, this isn't like 3 hours of working out in the gym.
Oh no, no, no. I'm done. I'm done inside of 15 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. I don't know, something like that.
And it depends on what all you do, right? You do the push-ups,
Yeah.
you do some sit-ups, you do some
Yep.
planks.
Yep. I do.
Okay, so let's take somebody who's been sitting around, they work at an office, they drive to work, they park as close as they can, they take the elevator, so they're not in good shape. How fast do you think they should try to get to 24 push-ups?
Well,
Yes.
to you start with the muscle failure, right? Like when I was first starting, I mean, I only started this maybe 10 years ago. And so when I first attempted it, I could not do a single push up on the flat floor. I actually had to use stairs for an incline. So I was doing it on a third stair, and then I would do five, and then I would do 10, and then I would do 15. And then I switched to second stair and the first stair, and then the zero stair, no stair. And, uh,
Right.
and I was able to finally do that. And then I went from 15 to 20 to 25. And
So if you do this to muscle exhaustion,
yeah.
how are you feeling the next day? Sore?
I don't know. I'll go back to no. Do it again. This is not. No, I'm not particularly sore. I would be really sore if I was doing it with a heavy weight on. Like if I was doing curls with twice as much than what I should use, then I will tear my muscles. I will just damage it. Yeah, to the point of pain.
Which we're getting close to my point, which is when you're starting out, be a little more gradual.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't done a plank in 10 years and actually never really do planks, but I did yoga, which was very good for the core.
Yes.
And I was visiting a friend of mine. She had a 10-year-old daughter, and the daughter did a plank. And in like 10 seconds, the daughter was like exhausted and falling on the ground. I said, well, that's crazy. And the mom said the same thing. So the mom went and she lasted like 20 seconds and then she's exhausted on the floor. I went, come on, you guys. So like 3 minutes later, I'm still waiting to feel tired from doing the plank, right? And the daughter got mad. So she sat on me, right? I'm doing the plank. So she's sitting on me trying to get me to go down.
Yeah. You could do
So,
another. You could do another 20 minutes if you wanted. Yeah.
so the point being is depending on your level of fitness. And the reason I bring this up is I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was just in pain and agony and everything else because she'd been doing jumping jacks and all this stuff. And her body was just like, I'm in agony. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, like you did it too much too fast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You have to know your body, right?
Mm, yeah. And now, of course, there is an antidote. We have a fibrinolytic enzyme, such as xylitol or serapeptase or whatever, and any one of the serapeptase enzymes will do, and they will eat away the damage overnight. As long as you take a dose high enough, you need to take enough for your body size.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Because what's happening when we're exercising is we're breaking down the muscle, right? And
Tearing
then
it
the
up.
muscle
Tearing it.
tearing it up, they're just mushing it up,
Yeah.
and then it's got to put itself back together. And usually that's the painful part,
Yeah.
along with the lactic acid. And
Okay.
then, but what you're saying is get the fibrin, and it'll eat the scars. Really, is what it's
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It'll stop the scars from forming so that you are healed overnight, so that when you go back to exercise tomorrow, you can do it again. And you will actually develop muscle mass or ability faster when you're loading with the enzyme,
Right, right,
because it's the stuff that makes you young. When you're less than 27 years old, you still have loads of it on board.
right.
But after, you don't.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point. All right. Let's see. What do we need to talk about here? Let's talk about the relationship between movement and mood. A lot of times, and I mean the obvious one, Martin, is dance. Like how often do you see somebody dance with a grumpy face? Right? Like,
Yeah, you may have an angry face when you're trying to emote something paso doble, but
right?
yeah, no, it's a happy thing.
It's a happy thing. And
Yeah,
that's part of movement, right? And the movement and the music and all that stuff is really,
yeah,
really important.
yeah.
So
And
it's connected.
who wouldn't want to touch somebody warm, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we humans love touching another human.
And being touched and being
Yeah,
hugged,
yeah, all that.
and this gives
Dance
you
is
that
yeah, dance
socially
is
acceptable way to do.
there we go. Socially acceptable way, the most fun you can have with clothes on.
That's right. And
All
there's
right,
so
so
many different types of dance too.
yeah,
I'm in the Latin countries, so salsa and merengue and bachata and tango and everything else. But I don't know if you know, but there's the waltz, right? Which was put together by the kings and queens and princes of uh,
yeah,
Anglo-Saxon countries. But
yes,
while they were up in their castles doing these waltzing things, the peasants were actually in the barn, and they were doing a dance called, it's now called contra dancing. And for me, it was, I did it for years and years in Vancouver. It was very, very fun. And it actually, there was a renaissance of it, started in Boston and went across Canada and the United States. But basically, it was a row of men and a row of women. And they were swinging around like, they were not being prim and proper at all. I mean, they weren't, it was the 17th, 18th, 16th centuries. I mean, they were all, they weren't taking their clothes off or anything. There was nothing to see. But what I loved about it was even there was a whole bunch of steps. And once you knew what a dipsy do was or a doodly dippy was, you were fine, right? But in the beginning, nobody knew what the dance was. They had a caller. So it was different than square dancing, because what would happen is the caller would say, okay, you're going to swim around this way, and then you're going to go this way, and then you're going to go with this partner, and then you're going to do, and he would sort of tell you, or she would tell you, and then you would step through it kind of slowly with everybody, and then it would go a little bit faster, and then it would go a little bit faster, and then the music started, and then the guy shut up. And then the next thing you know, there's 200 people swirling around in perfect harmony. And you would be with your partner, and then, oh, my partner's like way over there. And what's going to happen? And then they would come back, right? Depending on how intricate it was. It was very, very, so it was line dancing. It was like, there'd be two lines. If there's too many people, there'd be four lines, but it was two lines. And contra, against, you'd be facing your partner usually. Okay. And but what struck me was like, oh, there's 200 people in this hall, and none of us know what we're going to do in 5 minutes.
All right.
It was amazing.
Cool. That sounds lovely. I've never experienced that myself. I missed out on that fun. But line dancing reminds me that it's sort of like that, right?
It's very similar. I mean,
Except
because the movements
dancing,
are.
in line dancing, people are individual and nobody's touching anybody. And
in this dance, we were all huggy.
Yeah, right on.
So it wasn't a line like a Western line dance where everybody moves in rhythm together, but they don't touch. It's more like square dancing where it's hoedowns and you spin your partner around. And
all that. Lovely.
All right. So what are some other ways people could, walk, bike?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Sign up for a class, because accountability and companionship is a good thing. If you have a problem being self-motivated and carrying on, then you should be signed up somewhere where you have to show up and somebody's counting on you.
Yeah. I don't think people realize the power of an accountability partner. Like, whether it's a group of people that are counting on you to show up to dance, or whether it's a group, you and a friend wanting to lose a little bit of weight, or you and a friend wanting to work out. It really makes a difference when you have somebody that, like, I have a friend, in the last couple of months, we've been calling each other on Tuesdays. What's your goal for next week? This, and this. Okay. One of mine was to walk a mile a day, because I wasn't. Now I'm walking easily a mile to 2 miles a day. On, maybe missing, like today I missed because I was in a train for an hour, but oh no, I didn't, because I went for a good walk this morning. So, but it was just kind of like I said to him, I said, like, I won't do this stuff if it's just me, but I'm no way am I showing up next Tuesday and not having walked my mile a day and having to tell you. Right, because you're going to be honest. Like, you're not going to lie to your accountability partner. The benefit is for me, not to. My ego's not that big.
Yeah, you don't need to show off. I like walking with my wife because we get to talk to one another and fill in the gaps of the day. And what are you thinking of? And what have you done all day long? And stuff like that.
It's a great quiet time.
Yeah.
I have a story. I'm not sure I should tell it, but
now you set yourself up.
I did set myself up. I lived in Coquitlam for 10 years, and 2 blocks away was a Chinese lady that I dated for
years.
probably 7. Like it probably met her 3 years into it, so about 7 years. And she would just, call me up. You want to go for a walk? Yep. Or I go, or it just was a habit of ours. In the evening, it was a beautiful evening. We would go for a walk around the neighborhood. Sometimes we would see a bear. Hopefully, fortunately, not too often. And one day we were walking, and she had broken up with me, and we got back together. And she said, and she never really talked about why she broke up with me. She just said, "I don't want to see you anymore," because Chinese tend to be like that. And so we're walking, and she decided that she wanted to talk about it. I says, "Okay." She says, "I don't want to get married." "Well, that's why you broke up with me." "Yeah, like the social pressure to, that's been 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Like, why aren't we getting married?" "Like, I don't want to get married." I said, "I don't want to get married either." And you could see the tension just drop off of her shoulders, right? The weight and everything.
Yeah.
And then,
So, Scott, it would be, well, if I wanted to marry you, I would have asked you a long time ago.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
anyway,
glad I didn't say that. But so
yeah.
anyway, 6 months to a year after this, she gets really mean to me, right? And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. Okay.
what is going on with you? So it's time for our walk. I'm sure I went back to my house, and, you know, so we go for a walk, and she says, "My daughter hates you." And I go, "Oh, I know." And secondly, she's in Toronto. We're in Vancouver. So there's 5,000 miles apart. Is she going to come live with you again? "No, no, I would never want her to come live with me again." "Okay. So who cares? Like, how often am I going to see her?" "Well, my parents don't like you either." "Well, they haven't met me. They're in China, and they're never going to meet me because I'm not going to go, and they're not going to come." I said, "Are they going to come to Canada?" "No." So I said, "Who cares? They're old. They're going to die one day. That'll be the end of that problem."
Oh my God, Scott, this is probably totally off topic.
It is probably totally off topic, but it's the advantage of going for a walk that you brought up, right? You're
Okay.
able to talk about stuff. You can't talk about it while you're potting plants. You can't talk about it while you're cleaning the sink. You can't talk about it while you're cooking. You can't talk
Yeah.
about it while you're answering emails.
Yeah.
But when
It's
you
one
put
of
all
the
that aside and you walk,
it's one of the best ways to solve problems. Like if you have a conflict or something difficult to talk about, it's really hard talking about it facing one another, sitting at a table, because the moment it gets difficult, the other party will huff and stand up and walk away or something like that.
right,
But if you invite someone to go for a walk and you're not facing one another, you're walking together facing in the same direction, and you're just glancing, that's all, you can talk about difficult things without being confrontational.
right,
Anyway, therapy while walking, it's a good thing.
exactly,
Find a walking partner and talk about difficult things. And the more difficult things they are, the longer you'll walk and the healthier you'll be. Take
that's
it
right.
from the taking from the senior that Scott and I are.
Yeah, yes, our elder knowledge
Yeah.
experience. It's funny how it is.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things you can do, like when you're sitting at your desk, Martin? Like, do you ever tell people, like, just
So
tighten your
uh,
muscles or,
I have this thing here.
oh,
It's the it's a ball. So when I don't want to make people dizzy, which I'm going to attempt now, um, I'm
you're
on my
bouncing away?
ball and I'm bouncing. So at least the top half of my body is actually experiencing the gravity changes. And also, if I go this way, there's a little bit of dealing with the core strength. It's having to
Right?
compensate for the sideways movement, and the ball is not stable, so I'm having to wiggle.
Your posture is probably much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're strengthening the core, and yeah, and there's
And
no
you're standing up
backrest.
straight because
There's no backrest. Yeah.
there's no slouching.
Yeah. Cannot slouch,
Yeah,
otherwise you'd
I
fall over.
was, I, I was a coach for the Internet Marketing Center for 2 years, and I
Uh
had
huh.
one of those balls. I bought it and because I just thought that was a problem. And of course, I'm talking, but it's on a phone 20
Yeah.
years ago,
No
right?
camera.
And
Yeah.
I remember taking the ball and doing all sorts of the ball exercises with it while I'm talking to them. And people would walk by and they'd be like, what the hell? You know, but I just felt it was a really good way to get the energy out
Mhm.
as I'm talking because I'm excited talking to them. I need to do something, right? I can't just
Yeah.
stand or can't just sit.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
So that's one
Sitting
thing.
is
Get a
the
ball.
antithesis. Yeah. Get a ball, get a walking, what, a treadmill in your office. Yeah. Get a raised desk so that your computer is up so that you can be walking. I don't have that, but it's a good thing.
I went into one of Ernest Hemingway's homes,
Uh
and
huh.
he had a standing desk. It was basically just a pole, like a, what do they call it at a sermon, right? But he would
Oh
have
yeah.
his book there, and
Pulpit.
he'd be right pulpit, and he'd be just writing away. And he wore it wasn't a hole, but an indent in the wooden floor, like because he was standing in that
And
same
he
place,
shuffled and
shuffling.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you could just see the floor went like this, and then it went down, and then it went back up, and off it went.
yeah,
So, but yeah, standing while you're doing stuff when you
yeah,
don't have to sit is really good.
yeah, for sure.
I wonder what somebody could do. I noticed this today when I was waiting to get on the train. Was there was a guy who's a little bit taller than me. Um, he had his phone, right, and he
Hmm.
had it down near his belly button, close to his belly button, and his head was just like he was just like a willow tree practically,
Yeah, he
right?
was bent over like a bird hunting for fish. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness, you do that for 10 years.
Well, you're gonna develop the head forward problem. So let me just illustrate this. So, oh, this ball is not letting me turn. So your ear is supposed to be over your shoulder. So
Okay,
this
you
is
have to
this.
move back about 3 inches, Martin.
So
Thank you.
this is head forward. And this is straight.
Yeah.
Right. And the main point is this: when you develop a head forward posture, you end up with migraines, headaches, deoxygenation, all kinds of problems. So be aware. This is not a good thing.
No.
Scrolling with your head down is not a good thing. Yeah. So what's the right thing to do? Well, yeah, get up every 30, 40 minutes.
How about holding your phone up?
Perhaps
Wouldn't that be funny,
get
eh?
one of the long sticks and hold it like that. I don't know.
One of the things I'd say a lot is look up, right? Like
Yeah.
look up. The sky is beautiful. You're surrounded, like where I am right now. They're surrounded by beautiful buildings, and everybody's down here doing this. It's like you're missing out on an amazing place.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
George says,
Exercise,
"Ouch." Exercise. Um,
movement, voluntary adversity is an interesting concept.
right.
I remember Gary Brecka saying, I think he patented it or copyrighted it or whatever the word is. But anyway, he said, uh, aging is caused by the relentless pursuit of comfort. When you don't do the hard things, when you don't move and exercise, you will age faster.
Yeah. When you eat the ice cream instead of the salad,
Oh, yeah, well, that too. Yeah, that eliminates
the
chewing.
beer, the beer instead of the water,
Yeah,
staying indoors instead of going out in the sun.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, George, a
Maybe,
great comment. Walking with emotional baggage. And the emotional baggage just slips out of the suitcase as you walk.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's as if you can prick a little hole and allow it to dissipate.
Or now in my mind, I have sand. You have a suitcase full of sand, your emotional baggage. You prick a couple holes and you're walking along, and the sand
It
just,
gets lighter as you go. Yeah.
that's right. That's not the case with my suitcase. It seems to get heavier. Actually, it's
Oh,
funny when I'm traveling a lot and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter, not because anything comes out of it, but I'm just moving more and stronger. And then when I'm in a
oh,
place for a month and then I pick up
the
that
same
suitcase,
pack
it's
that
like,
you came with.
oh my goodness, I can't believe how heavy this is.
Uh,
And of
well,
course,
it's amazing that
the
you're
taxi
moving.
drivers are all, go ahead.
No, you're moving everything, like your entire physicality goes with you, right? Every
Yeah, my whole
two
life.
months or whenever you go, everything that you will use for the next 2 months is coming.
Yeah,
It's it's a pretty light life
it
because
is. There's not a lot of weight.
I'm surrounded with crap that I have not given up on yet. I mean, those are wonderful things. Those are books I've read, but I've read them. I don't know if I'll ever read them again.
Yeah, there's also a connection to books
Yeah, I
that you
know.
get, right?
Yeah, that's sort of like having a wife and just saying, "Well, I've already been with her. I don't need her now."
Yeah. Don't don't yeah,
Don't
that's
go
not
there.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't go there. Um, I love my iPad because instead of carrying 100 books, I have 30 or 40 in here.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about science fiction authors, and he knew some of the ones from the 60s and 70s that I had read.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one
Oh,
of
he
my
knew them in
favorites, he
person.
I
Yeah.
no, oh no, he knew who he had read their books.
I see. Okay.
So we were talking about their stories and stuff. But I have one of my favorites he had never heard of. His name is Roger Zelazny, and he was a very strange writer because he had a lot of Buddhism type stuff, or Eastern mysticism or Eastern
Yeah.
religions, but combined in this science fiction world of 200 years from now, sort of thing. And I just loved his writing. In fact, I remember I was too young reading one of his books, and I said, I can't wait till I'm 4 years older and I can understand this. Because the writing was beautiful. I just didn't have a clue what he meant, right?
Okay. I'm gonna
So
have to pick up some of his books because that sounds really interesting.
I'll send you my favorite, The Lord of Light,
All
and
right.
it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
But that's another thing.
Yeah, my most favorite
Go ahead.
philosopher, my most favorite philosopher who pretended to be sci-fi writer was Robert Heinlein.
Mon of mine too. He was amazing.
Yeah.
And Vicky has shown up, and she says, "Hi,
Okay.
Martin."
Hi, Vicky. Maybe she's showing up for the appointment that we made on the calendar for the wrong time. I don't know.
She says, "I've been meaning to call you." So,
All right.
Vicky, make
Well,
sure
I'm
you
here.
do.
Okay.
He'll be free in 10 minutes.
Oh, are we going
So,
to talk for that long? Okay.
well, I probably, because there's two things that we're going to talk about before we go. The first one is the rebounder here.
All right.
So, I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover that. So
Yeah,
this
well,
is
I have one of those things here, and that's what I get on, and I do multiple exercises on it. I do a bounce and a sprint and a deep dip. Yeah, there are two types. This one is based on springs. The other types are based on bungee cords.
that's right.
Do
So
not
Martin,
do not bother buying one for $129. Okay, this the price of this thing is what it is because of, okay, and when you buy the
because it's
cheap,
going to last.
no, well, not just that. When you buy the cheap thing, it's going to have a straight spring instead of the barrel shaped spring. So that spring will unload your kinetic energy on you all at once, which is about as much fun as bouncing on cardboard. See here,
Right.
it unwinds. Some parts of the spring are weaker and some are stronger. So some will uncoil on a lighter weight and some will uncoil at the full impact. So this is dynamic rather than all in one go.
Right. I've seen some people use this. It's amazing how hard they work on it, like sprinting and stuff. Just
Oh yeah,
incredible.
God, yeah. I do a 100-meter dash on my, like I have it counted out. It's exactly 25 times 4, 100 steps in.
Oh, okay.
And yep, yeah.
Oh,
Gotta do it. So yeah,
so
I
what
can still run a whole block at full speed.
and what impact does this have on your lymphatic system?
Well, it's a double action. So it's up and down, meaning that, well, walking has a positive impact on your lymphatic system. This, you get the work done in about half the time. And the idea is that when you go down, the lymph by momentum stays up. So it travels upward through the channels. So every time you move up and down, you're moving the lymph through the channels. And because of the impact of this, it's it's both calisthenic, isometric, and whatever that other thing is, all at the same time. I forget
And
the
it's
word.
not going to be as hard on your joints as running, for example, or even
That's
walking when you get
yeah,
older.
yeah, exactly. It's got cushioning to it, so it will be okay even for people who hurt.
So, Martin, just today, I'm out at the beach. If you're late, everybody, I am in Spain, just south of Barcelona. The last 3 days, I was in Barcelona near one of the beaches, and I saw an old fellow with a cane walking incredibly slowly. And I wasn't thinking about it then, but I'm thinking about it now, and I'm thinking if he had a rebounder and just rebounded for started with 5 minutes a day sort of thing, and he's not obviously going to be bouncing high and everything else, that's going to have a good, because the way he's walking, there is no movement of the lymph stuff, right? Like there's nothing is happening. He's
Yeah,
barely taking half a
minimal,
step.
very minimal. Yeah,
Yeah. So if he got his lymph system moving, is
yeah,
that going to make things better for him?
yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah, because the lymph is what's contacting your cells, and all the oxygen and all the nutrients and all the metabolites are sloshing through the lymphatic system. And if you don't have the movement, then you lose your oxygenation capacity.
Yeah, and then you have no energy and all the rest of it.
Yeah. I remember watching a guy walking on a small, slight incline, and I could see on his face that he was working as hard as he could, and he was barely moving, like
Wow.
shuffling, right? But you could see the effort. It was all out.
Wow. So, hi, Deborah. Greetings from Northern California. Thank you for joining us. And George, he's going to live to 321. I
George,
did
George is,
sandbags,
yeah,
hip
yeah,
belt squat, push-ups, ab roller, etc., etc. Yes, George,
yeah, show
you are
off.
my
Yeah,
you're my
not
inspiration.
Mr. America. Not only is he strong, he also looks good.
Uh, all right, we have one more I wanted to touch on, and that was, oops, just a sec, I lost it. There it is.
You lost it. Okay.
Here it is, lymph
Oh,
plex. Because
oh
I
yeah.
thought
Well,
that this was
that's
kind
the
of moving into the lymph system, so we should talk
yeah,
about it a little bit.
yeah. That's the herbal support for people who are congested and aren't keeping up with it. And so, if you find it difficult, then Limplex will help you move things along, which is phenomenal because stagnation is what turns your lymph into a swamp. And you will know it because your sweat will smell bad, especially your feet and your crotch and your armpits will smell not nice. And that's because your lymph is stagnant and rotting. So,
So for the latecomers, what does the lymph system do?
Well, it's like the sewage system combined with the garbage removal system. It's the fluids that are between your cells, outside your cells, and it has 3 times the volume of your blood, and it's filling all of the spaces within. And if you cut yourself and you're oozing this yellowish goo, that's the lymph. That's what you're oozing. Its job is to serve as the water of an aquarium. If the cells, if your cells were like the fish in the aquarium, the fish will take the food out of the water and then they will poop back into it. So the lymph, through its pumping action that you achieve by physical movement, will move between um, lymph nodes, but eventually reach up here under your clavicles, where the lymphatic system connects with the bloodstream. And so that's where the lymph connects with the blood, and that's where it hands over all of its worries onto the blood. That gets carried to the liver and the kidneys, gets filtered and cleaned out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want it working well.
Well, yeah. I should have said just 3 words. You want your lymph clean, baby.
Right. And moving, walking, bouncing up and down are all things that really help.
Yeah. Because lymph has no pump of its own. You are the pump.
Yeah. No heart.
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. So we come to the end of our time together. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Next week, we're going to be talking about, actually, I think next week is going to be a skip week because for some reason it's not on the calendar.
Well,
And
you can put it in, but if you're
I'm
not...
flying to Africa. So we may record and play a recording. But our plan was to talk about beating the summer burnout, self-care for real life. And
we can put it off by a week.
If this is all, a lot of people, they sit around all winter and then they think, yeah, summer is here. And then they sit around all summer and they're pooped without doing anything. So we're going to be talking about energy levels.
Okay. So if you want to talk to me on next Wednesday, just pick up the phone and call me.
There you go. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you a lot and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.